I can't get over it. Like I said, the days keep passing. He keeps doing more incredible things, amazing things, gifts to us, just righting the deep immoral wrongs that were done to us during the Biden administration. And we knew he was going to. He promised that he would. But aren't you so used to being disappointed by politicians? Everything's too hard. It didn't work out. The Democrats wouldn't cooperate. We get used to like, well, I guess, we tried. And what's happening, yes, it's via executive order. Yes, it can be undone by the next president. But it's something. It's progress. He's doing what he said he would do. He's fulfilling the promises he made to us. And then he will also push for the legislation. He is doing that too. But at least we have a 4-year fix. At least we have a 4-year restoration to sanity and morality in some departments, like the one I'm about to talk about, such that Americans can live again in a way that makes sense, in a way that is safe, in a way that is normal. And if another president comes in after Trump and tries to undo it, they will feel the acute shift in a way that will be profound and will, I think, stop the next president from doing it. So there is real value in these executive orders. Forget, that's a valid point, the one I just made. But think of all, for example, with respect to the girls in sports issue, think of how many girls are going to be protected. Think of how many girls are not going to have to undress in front of a boy pretending to be one of them. Are not going to have their teeth knocked out on the field hockey field because Trump used his pen to fulfill a campaign promise. It was a thing of beauty yesterday. He signed, it truly was beautiful. He signed an executive order banning men and boys from women's and girls' sports. And the NCAA has already said it will comply. It was a complete victory in the war to protect our girls. Just unbelievable. The video, let's watch it, okay? Let's watch it because it's actually kind of emotional. And then I'm going to bring in our first guest.
If you'd like to gather around me, I think I'm going to be okay. Come on. Come on. Secret Service is worried about them? If we have to worry about them, we have big problems. Okay, do you want to do this? Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens, okay? You ready? What a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me press that. I want to make this a really good signature because this is a big one, right? Oh, I think we have a 10. We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
Surrounded by young, innocent, fresh-faced girls who just want to play their sports against other girls. That's all they're asking. Just for fairness and safety in sport. Something that for many decades has been a foregone conclusion in the wake of Title IX, but wasn't recently. Thanks to Joe Biden, that villain, and his sidekick, Kamala Harris, who actually tried to convince us she could do this job. We've talked about this, but the night before the election, I went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and did something I've never done before in my life, certainly not as a journalist, but not even as a private citizen. And that was I endorsed a candidate and spoke on his behalf and urged other people to vote for him. And I was there specifically. This was my task. I wasn't asked specifically to do this, but my choice to explain my vote was to tell people that those who are mocking President Trump's promise to protect women did not understand what he was actually going to do when he took the office. That I was voting for him specifically because I believed that promise. We spoke about that night, Laken Riley. I mentioned her by name. What was his first order of business? The very first piece of legislation he signed into law, the Laken Riley Act, to protect other young American women and men from the crimes committed by illegals who are here who repeatedly offend and then in these sanctuary cities get turned right back out onto the street, which is what happened in Lake and Riley's case. And now what? We've had 3 executive orders, one declaring that sex is binary. There are no trans anythings. You cannot transition from being male to female or female to male. You can pretend, you can call yourself that, do your thing. The rest of us do not have to participate in your delusion, and we will not be saying your pronouns or pretending that your delusion is anything other than unwellness. Then one declaring that the federal government would not be participating in any gender transitions because that's fake too. You cannot use Medicare funds or Medicaid funds to chop off the healthy genitals of children in the name of this sick ideology, nor can any institution taking government funds in any way perform these procedures and continue to accept those funds. And now we get this one that has 79% support of the American people, 67% of the Democratic Party is on the same page as Donald Trump on whether we should have boys who pretend to be girls playing in girls' sports, men who pretend to be women playing in women's sports. The answer is no. This was immoral, it was evil, and it's coming to an end. Joining me now to discuss this historic executive order and all today's news, Andrew Klavan. He's the host of The Andrew Klavan Show at the Daily Wire and author of the forthcoming book, The Kingdom of Cain, Finding God in the Literature of Darkness, which will be released in May. Wow, I love the title, Andrew, and it's a similar theme to what we just saw today. Not that Trump is God, but that God was present as he signed that executive order in the darkness of these past 4 years yesterday.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right that even though these are EOs and we'd like to see laws passed, these are incredibly important because this is not a political movement that Trump is leading. This is a cultural movement. I mean, it's even in some sense a cultural revolution, if I can borrow a phrase from our old friend Chairman Mao. I mean, this is the complete destruction of a way of thinking that has been imposed on us, not just through the Biden administration. He was kind of the worst of it, but he was also the end of it. This is 30, 40 years of a way of thinking that is it absolutely makes sense. And what Trump is doing is he's doing exactly what the left has so expertly done to us. The left knows how to basically, what Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy, calls talk past the sale. Talk past the important point. So they get us into an argument about whether a transgender person can use a girl's bathroom or play in a girl's sport. And while we're fighting about that, we've already lost the argument because we've already accepted that there is such a thing as a person who can transition from one sex to another, which there's not. And because Trump is such an expert at the culture, he's not an expert at politics, he's an expert at the culture. He understood that just by gathering those little girls and young ladies around him, he was showing us a picture of what we have been told to forget, that these are our women. These are our future mothers of a generation that I won't even get to see be born. These are wives of people who haven't even met them yet. These are the people that we cherish as women. And for years, we've been taught that women can only feel that they've accomplished something if they accomplish something as men. And that means that somebody who is a man who dresses up like them is essentially can replace them. They've taken away these children's identities. They've taken away their achievements. They've taken away their feminine modesty. They've taken away their spaces and their safety. And it is when you see those girls gathered around him, you tear up, as you say, that God is present in that moment because we remember what we always knew, that these are people that we cherish, and we cherish them in their girlhood, in their femininity, in their womanhood. All this stuff that has grown up recently, these Andrew Tate clowns and Pearl Davis who tell us we hate each other, these are all distortions forced on us by leftist feminism, by this idea that women are not valuable as women, they're only valuable as make-believe men. And so we've kind of been taught, we've got this anger in us, especially younger men. I think they have this anger and this idea that we are at war with one another. That's never been true. That has never been true in any human civilization. In any successful human civilization, men and women cherish each other. They actually respect each other. They understand that they're different and have different roles and different strengths. And they understand that they're complementary. And all of that was wiped away until finally we found ourselves actually allowing people with penises to walk in to girls' locker rooms and bathrooms. I mean, it was a kind of insanity. 15% of the so-called women in women's prisons are men. And I mean, this is the kind of madness that we've been talked into instead of basically living on our common sense, our ability to know what we know. I mean, it's really interesting when my friend, Matt Walsh at the Daily Wire made that film, What is a Woman? The answer was not as easy to come up with as you might think, because a woman is a whole thing. A woman is not just a body. It's not just a genetic code. It's not just a shape. It is actually an entire thing that we all understand in our hearts, but can't always express. And the left has cleverly used its cultural expertise to talk us out of that knowledge. And Trump is using his equal cultural expertise, backed up by a new media that supports him, to remind us who we are, to remind us that we're men and women. We're glad we're men and women. We think it's a beautiful part of creation. It's the source of all human life. And when you see them gathered around him like that, you just think, what have we done? What were we even talking about? What kind of nightmare have we been in that we have to wake up from it like this and tell people, pass orders saying you can't castrate little boys and cut off the breasts of little girls, and you can't steal their spaces and their sports. And it's an amazing moment and a genuine transition. And I think it will last far longer than the usual executive orders.
I love everything you said. I'm feeling like I feel euphoric about it. I feel emotional about it. I feel a lot for the girls who have been hurt over the past 4 years, who, all these trans lobbyists are like, trans people exist, don't erase our existence. They erase the pain of girls just like that. They just pretend it didn't happen. I referenced that night in Pittsburgh, and it was, for me, it was a big deal to go and do that. I've never done that before, and it was really important to me to do it. If I could convince any of my fellow women, because I know that there are a lot of Democrat women who were kind of open-minded to Trump because of issues like this, who were still being told he was Hitler, who were still being told he hated women. And I felt in my heart that if I could speak to them, if I could reassure them that even notwithstanding my weird past with Trump, I was fully on board in supporting him, and that they needed to see him through this different lens. They needed to understand he really would protect us. He really would. And that absolute cretin Chris Cuomo then mocked me for saying I needed to be protected by Donald Trump. I do want Donald Trump to protect me with laws that enforce, for example, our immigration policies. And I do want him to protect my 13-year-old daughter, Chris Cuomo. So go fuck yourself if you don't understand that. But this is what I said that night, and it's why I'm so emotional today.
The boys should not be in the girls' sports. The boys should not be in the girls' bathrooms. The boys should not be in the girls' locker rooms. Peyton McNabb, North Carolina sophomore in high school, slammed so hard in the face by a volleyball hit at her by a boy pretending to be a girl. She suffered traumatic brain injury and permanent paralysis. Kamala Harris looks at her and says, be kind, suck it up. And that's what's right. Why do our girls have to face brain damage in order to be kind to boys who want to invade their sports?
And lo and behold, he did it. He stepped in there. He's been in office 2 weeks and 2 days, and he signed this executive order. Therefore, it is the policy of the United States to rescind all funds from educational programs that deprive women and girls of fair athletic opportunities. I'm feeling emotional about it, which results in the endangerment, humiliation, and silencing of women and girls and deprives them of privacy. It shall also be the policy of the United States to oppose male competitive participation in women's sports more broadly as a matter of safety, fairness, dignity, and truth, directing that this Secretary of Education take all appropriate action to affirmatively protect all female athletic opportunities and all female locker rooms, and to prioritize Title IX enforcement actions against any educational institution that denies female students an equal opportunity to participate in sports or athletic events. We continue to face uncertainty when it comes to the economy, with a perfect storm brewing as Social Security and Medicare hit a breaking point, as the largest generation is hitting retirement. A smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. You pair that with our growing national debt and our rising cost of living, and we could have a very big problem on our hands. So what are you doing now to protect your family for the future? Are you diversifying? Gold can be very useful to you in this. It can be a safe haven in hard economic times. And Birch Gold has a super great reputation, and they will make it very easy to diversify a portion of your savings, if you so choose, into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k in whole or in part into an IRA in gold, and it will not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text MK to 989898 and get your free info kit on gold and a copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, just information. Birch Gold has earned the trust of countless Americans looking to safeguard their savings. You just text my initials, MK, to the number 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.